The Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway is one of the most talked about projects in our country, but unfortunately, most reports about it are either conflicting, biased, or blatantly false. That's why I decided to do you a favor and walk across the first 15 kilometers of this road so I can report what's going on and the realities on ground to you. I headed out without any bias, narratives, or agenda in mind. But what I learned about this project shocks me to the core, and I'm sure it's going to shock you too. There was no denying the quality of the actual road infrastructure. It's better than most of the roads we have in our country right now. But unfortunately, nagging issues like the growing homeless encampments by the side of almost the entirety of this road and potential worker welfare issues threaten to taint the present and future of this project. Why don't you sit back and relax? Because this video is going to make you rethink all you thought you knew about the Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway. One of the most exciting things about this project is that it can literally break records or become another landmark of failure in the long list of abandoned projects within our country. The Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway begins in Victoria Island, right beside Koramo Waters and Eco Atlantic. You might be familiar with Eco Atlantic. It's a sea reclamation project of the coast of Victoria Island that has been somewhat of a success over the years, but has also stagnated in many instances. If you know Lagos, then you would definitely have heard of the Eco Hotel. Eco Hotel is perhaps the hotel in the city, and it no longer has access to the ocean because of this new road. If you look to the right from where I filmed, you would find the ongoing US consulate that's being built to be the largest US consulate anywhere in the world. Scary. This road is elevated a couple meters higher than mean sea level for obvious reasons to prevent flooding. It's essential to give this project as much protection as necessary. Victoria Island is one of the most expensive areas of Lagos. But you might be surprised to learn that on the route of the new road being built, there is a growing squatter community starting from literally kilometer 0 behind Eco Hotel. It's kind of insane to me that one of the most expensive part of the city is hosting a growing squatter community with 10 makeshift accommodation, stores, and essentially everything you would need to run a small city within a city. Without even going into the obvious security risk that this comes with, it's kind of saddening to understand that there is this many people within our city that lack housing. But as time goes on, you would also learn what I came to learn, that a lot of these people living on this route are not actually homeless. They were just not given proper housing by the people running this project, alleged. But I found many more legitimately homeless people who had no choice but to live in tents. If you are still here and you are enjoying the video, why don't you consider subscribing to the channel and clicking the like button? It takes just a second to do both, and it's the easiest way to support the work we're doing out here. As we travel further on this road, we come across the famous or infamous landmark Africa. If you followed the stories around this road, you would remember when Landmark was really going the extra mile trying to save their beach that used to be a couple kilometers down the road. But unfortunately, that did not end well for Landmark. Traveling along what used to be Oniru Beach makes me remember a time where Oniru Beach was the go-to beach in Lagos and everybody had to be there. If not, where were you? Around the 2-kilometer mark, the railings protecting or shielding the road from what would be Eco Atlantic stop, which was quite abrupt. The road so far has been well laid, concrete roads, the whole 9 yards, but the infrastructure surrounding it is beginning to show some lack, and is beginning to show that probably, maybe just saying, the road was commissioned a couple months too early. The road diverts at the 2.5-kilometer mark. To the left, it's more inward around Lekki up to Ikate area, while to the right it hugs the coast. On the left, I found a full-blown squatter community living in essentially what used to be coastal Lekki. I saw signs of drug usage, people obviously exhibiting signs of just using it. I don't know what it's called. I also witnessed incomplete infrastructure. There were parts where the walkway just ended abruptly. There were parts where the road was still being built to an extent. There were areas where street lights were still being installed and the likes. And due to the time I shot this video, people were already setting up their tents for the night. It's quite unfortunate and jarring to experience. Literally behind houses that might be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, there is a squatter community. It's obviously a security risk, but how did these people essentially take over these roads a few weeks after commissioning? This is my second video addressing this, and I still don't know what to say about it. Now let's go back to kilometer 2.5 to show you what the coastal part of this section looks like. I decided to travel through this section at night to show you what this road looks like during the day and at night. I feel like I missed the opportunity to show you some exciting views on this road, but it's a trade-off that I feel was worth making. Although the road was officially closed a few days after commissioning due to some controversies, let's just put it as that, a handful of vehicles are still passing here, and I saw a large number of delivery bikes. There were some vehicles that were official for the people working on the project, that's high-tech, and there were some vehicles that were obviously private. Unfortunately, the kilometer Chinese markers were also removed across this project, so I had to use my Strava to essentially count steps and look at where I was. And looking at the physical landmarks and where they stop, the Strava data roughly aligns with what is applicable. When I got to kilometer 2.5, I saw that the road diverted. The first 5 kilometers of this road were relatively uneventful. As expected, it's the beginning of the road. The entire road was laid, the sidewalks were mostly there. Most of what needed to be there was already there by the time I started filming in July 2025. At around kilometer 2.5, something amazing happened. The road split, with the right hand side hugging the coast, while the left hand side traveled inward through Lekki, around Marwa, only to reconnect at kilometer 5 or a little bit past kilometer 5, which would be somewhere between Marwa and Ikate bus stop. It makes sense that the road splits at this level because there are lots of investments and honestly massive buildings on this stretch of the road. But it goes without saying that when the road splits, the part that goes inward through Lekki has a lot of homeless people. I'm not even going to lie. It was more than just an encampment. It was a community with people that honestly looked like they were at home. And I was scared to walk through it because of the kind of things I saw. If you plan to make a similar journey, like you plan to explore this road by foot or on a bicycle, and you're not in a vehicle, especially in the evening, please wrap up. My first time here, I felt sick after because it gets so cold. The fast moving ocean water, the wind and all. So make sure you wrap up. Welcome to another day of filming, and as mentioned earlier, the roads reconnect at kilometer 5, and I'm sure you can see it better in this clip. From this point out, trees were being planted in the middle of the road. I learned that this part of the road is actually planned to house a future railway system that would connect Lagos to Calabar. But in the meantime, it makes sense to use it to plant native trees. Work was still actively ongoing while I visited here, but the kind of work here wasn't like the main construction of the road itself. It was supporting infrastructure, things that make it work, things that we might not even get to see, but without them, we definitely don't know that something is missing. There were lots of vehicular activity here because of the coastal estates around here. Yes, there are estates to the right of the road and to the right of this video, and people still need to access their house, leave home, come back home. Although this road is closed, but there are concessions made for these people to be able to drive on certain sections to get home and leave home. The farther I travel from kilometer 5, the more things change. I noticed that after kilometer 6 thereabouts, according to my travel calculations, there were no more sidewalks. It kind of ended abruptly, but it ended at a very specific point around kilometer 6. You can find existing housing developments on both sides of the road at this point, but on the right side is mostly newer developments that look like they were developed recently, kind of like after the pandemic. A lot of them were still not occupied, but many were complete and occupied. I came across checkpoints for residents accessing their abode. Obviously, you have to get them, and these security officers were here alongside construction workers to ensure that the right people were getting where they needed to get. This area has changed considerably because I remember coming to Elegushi Beach multiple times, and I never thought I would imagine Elegushi Beach looking so unrecognizable. But here we have Elegushi Beach, famous or infamous one, we all know. Things can really change significantly. These videos take a lot of time and effort, and I had to work a lot. So why don't you support the work by just liking the video, or perhaps subscribing to the channel if you want to see more like this. If this video does well, I'm gonna walk across the entire 30-kilometer stretch and make a special video just for you. Welcome to Lagos town, between kilometers 7 and 8 of the Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway. At this point, there are less developments on the ocean side, with just one data center being the most significant development here. But thankfully, sidewalks return. Yay! I noticed, well, it was impossible not to, but I noticed that at this point, the center of the road was significantly wider. If I didn't know better, I would have said maybe they're building a roundabout, but that doesn't make sense. I remember that they plan to build a rail line through here, so I was thinking maybe this might be a rail station, a rail interchange. And then I thought about it again. I thought maybe, just maybe, it might be a flyover. I have no idea what they're doing here and why this place is wider. At this intersection, I got to witness a squabble between some armed military men and some construction workers, and that led to this place being shut down for the entire time I was there. We're really going at it, and the people that were trying to go about their business were stuck in the middle. One thing that stuck out to me was the quality of the barrier walls that were built and being built between the houses and the road. I was really impressed by it, and it reminded me of the Togolese standard, quote unquote, when Togolese bricklayers were still active in Nigeria, the kind of clean work they used to. That being said, between kilometers 8 and 9, I saw active work still going on to create the elevation protection, quote unquote. I don't know what the technical name is, but you know the road is elevated a couple feet or meters above mean sea level. That was being done here at the time I did. I tried my best not to talk about the homeless people living at this section of the road, because if I did, it will be the entire video. But I couldn't ignore looking at this guy or lady sleeping in the middle of the road at like 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. when I was here. At this point, we are around Circle Mall between Jakonde and Ologolo, if you're familiar with that area, just to give you a bearing of where we are. We are almost at kilometer 10, and imagine my surprise when I learned that a section of a road that was supposedly complete and commissioned was still being built. And this is not just supporting infrastructure like sidewalk, like the actual road was being built. There was a barrier and work was still ongoing. It might sound like I'm not a fan of this project, especially if you are inclined to believe so, but I am a fan of projects like this. I imagine how much it will help decongest this section of Lagos. But whatever we do, we need to do it well. The lies surrounding this project has made it an unnecessary talking point. Take as much time as it needs to complete the project, but why are you lying that certain things are done when they are obviously not done? And you can always visit here or send someone to go out there and give you a report of the reality on ground. Kilometer 10 is at Ologolo town. I started this video project with the aim of coming to put a lot of the unnecessary conversations to bed, but I got here and I learned more about this. I'm sure you would agree with me that there is more to building a road than just the road itself. The supporting infrastructure are almost as important as the actual road that vehicles drive on. And between kilometers 6 and 10, lots of the infrastructure, that's the supporting infrastructure, were missing or still being built, like the sidewalks, street lights, and a lot of other important stuff. As mentioned earlier, this road is elevated at certain sections to be higher than mean sea level, especially looking at how Lagos is very close to sea level. But around kilometer 9, elevation protection was still being done when I went there in August 2025. For a road that was supposed to have been commissioned, a lot is still going on a couple months later. Imagine my shock when I got to kilometer 10 and I saw that the actual road was still being laid. Like, this is not just supporting infrastructure, actual road was still being laid. No problem with this, in my opinion, but why are we commissioning incomplete projects? As mentioned earlier in the introduction, I cannot discount and overlook the quality of the actual road itself. If more roads in our country can be done like this, I'm sure we would have roads that would last for the next couple decades. Welcome back to another day of filming. Around kilometer 10 to kilometer 10.5, the road ends abruptly. I was a bit surprised and I did not know what to expect when I saw this barrier. But then I learned that this road ended here while construction is still ongoing at the early stages. I walked through this part where I saw and witnessed the process going on firsthand. But then this section is a bit more elevated than the other section. So I'm thinking maybe it's a bridge, a flyover, or a section that just needs to be more elevated due to geographical risk. That being said, my calculation puts it at 800 meters long. That's 800 meters long section on a road that was commissioned months ago. This video is about facts and reporting things as they are on the ground. I'm not here to try to put my personal opinions in things. I came here to investigate what all the fracas has been about, and I'm giving it to you as I see it. 800 or so meters later, the road finally reappears. As mentioned earlier, I did not expect my calculations to be accurate because I did not find many chainage signs. They were removed or never put. So I'm using Strava and physical landmarks. So around this point where the road return is behind or on the coastal side of Chevron, Lekki Conservation Center, and Julius Berger Quarry. So around that second toll gate. At this point, we are behind the amazing LCC. That's the Lekki Conservation. I'm a very big fan of this spot, and it's perhaps my favorite quote-unquote story site in this city. Unfortunately, Lagos doesn't have a lot of thought spaces and free public spaces. Yes, LCC is not free, but I love coming here because of how green it is in a city that is not very green. It's my first time seeing it from this vantage point, but I was shocked and borderline horrified to learn that there is once again a homeless camp right on the fringes of the Lekki Conservation Center. Please consider joining the channel as a member. It's the easiest way to support the channel financially, and it's surprisingly cheap. Or if you prefer a one-time type of financial support, you can leave a super gift. Or if that's a bit too much and you don't like to support financially, subscribe and like. Thank you as you do so. Believe it or not, shortly after kilometer 12 and the Lekki Conservation Center, I found something that shocked me. I saw this camp and I thought, oh, another homeless camp. But then I looked at the sign on it and it says high-tech camp. I went closer, I investigated, but I didn't get that on camera because I tried to be as inconspicuous as possible. And all I can say is, if this is the camp where workers temporarily live while they work, it brings a lot of question as to the quality of welfare high-tech gives their workers. At this point, we can now see the coast. I moved to the other side of the road because we are now directly on the coast. No homes, no development on the other side. It's more beautiful than I thought it would be. But unfortunately, the beaches were too dirty, filled with all sorts of human wastes, both organic and inorganic. And that took away from the beauty. At this point, the sea barrier is yet to be done. That's putting big stones, and the elevation protection is also yet to be done. What do you think of the project so far? This phase of the project, to be precise. Beyond kilometer 13, I came across ongoing work where massive rocks were being laid and arranged to create a sea barrier. What I mentioned wasn't available a few seconds ago. I believe they are working backwards, quote unquote. So they are filling the barriers and walking back toward where we were behind LCC. I get it. We are directly on the coast now, so it makes more sense and it's more important than ever to protect from coastal erosion and maintain the long-term structural integrity of this project. Additionally, there were more activities here. I saw a couple vehicles, a couple motorcycles here and there in previous kilometers, but from this point here on out, people were using this road as though it was fully open. There were vehicles, motorcycles, people, and it just felt like it was in use. I didn't get most of that because I didn't want to get people's face in it. And as we can see, the usual construction billboard that we see at almost every project. No project is truly complete without one of these. After what must have felt like an eternity to you, we are finally almost at the halfway point of this road, quote unquote. But before we get there, I love that I was able to experience different levels of construction progress across road. You get to see from what it will look like fully complete to what it will look like when things were just being built. At this point, we get to enjoy what I assume is a trench being dug for the construction of a pedestrian walkway. I might be wrong, but I believe this is what is happening here. Kilometer 15 is at Lafiaji town. You might not be familiar with it. I wasn't, but it is accessible through Orchid Road. I know the traffic there is awful, but if you want to come to this kilometer 15, find a way to Orchid Road and get a bike to Lafiaji town. Walking down, I saw many people walking on the barrier, sitting on it, thinking it was just an amazing time. It was in the evening, it was perfect. So I decided to try it out. It was a peaceful experience, and I got to say that this section of the road is not yet quote unquote protected. Isn't it crazy that a almost 1 kilometer section of a commissioned and allegedly complete road is still being built as at August 2025? The more I travel through this road, the more I learn about things that make me rethink what I thought I knew earlier. For example, I started suspecting that maybe the homeless people that I was seeing weren't actually homeless. They just didn't have a better option while they walked around there. Look at the state of a high-tech camp, and this is a branded high-tech camp that they put it out there that it is their camp. If this is what their camps look like, then I don't know. But what I love about this stretch between kilometer 10 to 15 was it actually put the coast in coastal. Yeah, in the beginning you could see the coast, but the moment we traveled from like kilometer 5, you had a lot of coastal estates. But now we're actually seeing the coast, and unlike the other parts, there are beaches. But unfortunately, the beaches are not the cleanest. But what are we gonna do? Would you believe me if I told you that I found peace by the coast in Lafiaji town? When I was done with my filming and walking, I stood there, the waves crashing, people walking. It was evening, sun setting. It doesn't get more beautiful than that. If you would like to see more videos like this made with a lot of effort and intentionality, you can click the video on screen right now because I made it specially just for you. Until the next video, your friend from the Okodo YouTube channel wishes you love, peace, and prosperity.